All right, we are now live streaming on YouTube.
Great. Kate, would you like me to start?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 2nd, 2022 Preservation Board hearing for the City of Rochester. My name is Christopher Coretta. I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. I'm an associate real estate broker living in the historic Grove Place Preservation District. I also sit on the executive committee for the Landmark Society of Western New York, as well as serve as a trustee on their board. We're meeting tonight under extraordinary circumstances due to state and local emergency orders requiring social distancing. We amended the Rochester Preservation Board bylaws to allow us to conduct this hearing as authorized by the governor's and mayor's emergency orders and to waive other requirements in order to proceed with this online hearing. These waivers permit us to hold this hearing by teleconference with no in-person attendance, allow applicant presentations by teleconference, and require all public comments, both in favor of and opposed to the application, to be submitted in writing, by email, or by hard copy document mailed to the zoning office, or deposited in the secure drop box located in the link entrance of City Hall. All written public comments were required to be submitted by 5 p.m. yesterday. Although this hearing's been altered for some of our normal procedures, many things remain the same. All the normal notifications for this hearing, including mailed notice, publication, and the posting of notice, were followed. All the normal timeframes for applicant presentations and comments in favor of and opposed to the application remain the same. And most importantly, this board will hear, review, and make decisions about all the applications with the same diligence and using the same standards as required by the zoning code. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that when a case is called, the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to present. The applications are posted on the city website and available for the public to review. All applicants were advised to ensure that their applications were complete and included all information that they intend to present at the hearing tonight. As the application is presented, staff will, as reasonably possible, show the pages of the application the applicant is addressing. Following our normal procedure, the board members may ask the applicant questions. If during the hearing the board determines that substantial new evidence has been submitted by the applicant during the presentation or is given in response to questions by the board, the case will be adjourned to the next announced hearing date to allow the public to review that new evidence and to submit additional comments. After the applicant's presentation is completed, staff will read into record any comments received after the comment deadline that are not already posted on the city website. After all the comments have been read, the applicant will have 5 minutes to offer any testimony and rebuttal. The board will commence deliberations and voting after the public hearing of each agenda item, with the exception of any applications that are being adjourned. Please also note that if your case is approved today, a written decision will be mailed to you within 15 business days. The decision will inform you of the next steps to complete the approval process. Before we open the first case, please note that all board members are volunteers. I'd like each of the board members to confirm their presence for purposes of establishing a quorum for this hearing and to introduce themselves and mention their area of expertise. In alphabetical order, we'll start with Ed Kane, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Kane. I'm a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you, Ed. Let's go to Gerald Gam.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm a professor at the University of Rochester. I'm also a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District. And like Chris, I sit on the board of the Landmark Society.
Great. Thank you, Gerald. And our fourth board member is Victor Sanchez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Sanchez. I'm a planning and construction project manager, and I also serve on the Preservation Advisory Committee for the Landmark Society of Western New York.
Thank you, Victor. And staff? Start with Kate Powers.
Kate Powers, Senior City Planner with the Buildings and Zonings Division.
Thanks, Kate. Matthew Simonis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm a team member in the zoning office, helping out on tonight's hearing.
Thank you. Diamond Howard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diamond Howard, and I am training as a zoning analyst and here to help with the technology for tonight.
Thank you, Diamond. Tom Worth.
I'm Tom Worth from the Law Department and co-counsel to the board with Andrew Creary.
Great. Thanks, Tom. And Andrew Creary.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Creary, and as Tom said, I'm an attorney in the law department and co-counsel with Tom Worth.
Thank you. And certainly last, but certainly not least, Juan Linares.
Yes, good evening, Juan Linares, City of Rochester Building Permit Department and Building Codes.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, members and staff. Kate, did you want to introduce our first case?
Sure. Let me just quickly pull up the PDF here. All right, just to check, can you see my screen okay?
We can.
Okay, great. So our first case, case number 1, is file number A-020-21-22. This is a certificate of appropriateness case for subject property 232 Mill Street, which resides in the Center City District, Riverfront District, as well as the High Falls Preservation District. The purpose of their request is to replace an existing interior generator with an exterior diesel generator within an enclosed storage area on the west side of the site. This case was held from the board's November 2nd, 2021 hearing. All present board members have visited the site, and we have Patricia Bedard, Manager of Water Production for the Hemlock Water Filtration Plant, here to present the case.
Thank you, Kate. I will now swear Patricia Bedard in. Patricia Bedard, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Ooh, do we have Patricia with us?
I'm sorry, I'm moving her over.
Ooh. Just cut out for a second, Patricia. Are you there?
So I believe that Diamond is right now working on moving her from the attendees list over as a panelist. So I see
Okay.
that she just popped up.
Yep. Patricia, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, great. I
Yes,
need to
you're
swear
there.
you in. Okay,
Hi,
there you
everyone.
are. Hi, everyone. I just need to swear you in. So Patricia Bedard, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And we're ready for your presentation.
Okay, first of all, thank you volunteers for your time. I sit on another board that I got a meeting later tonight, and I appreciate your time. So this, as you know, is our Holly Pump Station. We appreciate the fact that you're looking at giving us approval to put our emergency generator outside. This Holly Station is the primary pump station for the Holly system, which basically provides high pressure fire system to all those in the central business district, which is the neighbors around this building as well. So after the November meeting, we went back to the table with the project team and looked at fencing options for us for that site. And we reached out to our city's term contractor, which is the New York State Fence, and a few others to get some ideas of what we could do. And then we really kind of looked at what's the primary goal here and how can we improve this. And so tonight, our recommendation is to eliminate the fencing on this site and have the generator out there in plain view with 4 to 5 bollards around it. And the primary reason why we're doing this is after talking with our folks in law enforcement and Homeland Security, the water sector is a critical infrastructure. And one of the things that those folks recommend is to have the ingress and egress of all facilities visible and open to the public, well lit, so that the bad guys, so to speak, can't lurk in the shadows and get access to those facilities. So we thought that the option without a fence actually provides the best security to that facility. And that's one of my main concerns these days, water security, whether it's physical security or cybersecurity. And I think the neighbor who wrote an email in prior to the first board meeting or the other board meeting was concerned with the unsightliness nature of that fence. Some sound issues, which I think that'll be taken care of with the enclosure. And I think it'll dress it up actually a lot nicer than any other type of fence. So that's our recommendation. And we, again, appreciate your attention to this matter. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them for you.
All right. Thank you, Patricia. We'll open this up to the board for questions. We'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Oh, thank you, Chris. I don't have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Ed. I would be next, Patricia. In the packet that we received, you did give us a couple other options with two other fencing options. Is that correct?
Correct. We gave a 5-foot high fence similar to what I've seen in other areas around the High Falls buildings, and then a 8-foot high fence that's down by the RG&E property up in that district as well.
Now,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, I was just going to say, I'm not a security expert by any means, but I would think that if this were behind a fence, it would add security, would it not?
They can get right over those fences pretty easy.
Probably a lot easier to get in without the fence, though.
Well, it doesn't. I guess it didn't really serve a purpose. The other issue is of an economic standpoint too. So the 8-foot high fence is roughly $45,000. That is the cost of the generator. So I would ask for the board's consideration on fiscal responsibility as well, because see, we're not a private developer. The cost that we put into this project, we have to directly transfer to the less than 300 customers on the Holly system. We are not tax-based. We are based on the water that we sell. So for an extra $40,000 to $45,000, I don't see what benefit this is going to get us for the project. Number one, and number two, if you notice, there's two accesses to this facility, one on this side and then one around the back. The back is our main site entry for the vehicles and access to the larger pumps inside. A lot of times when there are special events there, festivals and so forth, people park in front of that back entrance, so we can't even get in there with the trucks that we might need to make an emergency repair. A fence will open up this area out front and allow us, if we need to get into that facility, it'll be much less obstructed. That was the other primary benefit of not having a fence at all.
Okay, I'm sure Tom Worth can help us with this as far as finances are concerned. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. Patty, this is where the board has me give the homily about cost. And the way the board's rules are made, that we can't consider costs to require approval of something that's not deemed appropriate by the design standards. If they approve something that was too costly, the city's option, like any other applicant, would be to come back and file a proof of undue economic hardship, and that would come back in front of the board at another occasion. But so it's two-step process. If we're gonna where we ignore the costs at this stage and would evaluate them by a undue hardship application at another stage.
Sure, I appreciate that, Tom. Thanks for for saying that. Again, the primary reason we're not recommending, or we're recommending a no fence option, is not the cost. It's the functionality of the station without a fence, for the security of the facility and the free and clear access to the facility.
Okay.
So you'll,
Okay. I guess I don't have any other questions. I think I'll just add to kind of what Tom said. To simplify it, we're really just looking at the aesthetics of it, to be quite honest with you. It may not be what you want to hear, but that's really what we're charged with, is to look at the aesthetics for what it's worth. But thank you. I have no further questions, but I do appreciate you answering the ones that I had. Next will be Gerald Gam. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
So Patricia, thanks. Yes, I do. So Patricia, thanks for being here. My question is more a follow-up on the conversation you're having with Chris. So obviously one option are these ballards. The other option that you're describing, when you gave the cost, I'm trying to figure out what the fence is made out of. It's obviously a very, very, very nice material. So my question is, had you considered having a metal fence that's a less expensive fence, maybe an aluminum fence?
so, right, the one that we looked at was, we tried to make it coincide with what's in the district now, and just to the north is the RG&E property, and it's just like that. It's a metal fence. And that's what we were quoted on.
Okay, so
Um,
you weren't quoted on a simpler aluminum fence.
Correct.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking is because a less expensive metal fence might still be something we'd approve. It would still give great visuals. So I think security-wise would be the same. Unlike the wooden fence, you could see right through and see if anybody's in there. And my concern visually is that almost looks like a parking lot without a fence on a street that's otherwise a lively street. And a fence would provide some closure connecting the buildings. But I guess that's not a question. So the question is, would you be open to a different metal fence? That's the question. Or are you wedded to the style that you have in the application?
You know, when we came before the board before, I think Mike Hirschman, my peer at the Water Bureau, said, all right, tell us what you want and we will go try to find it. And we didn't get very clear instructions as to exactly what you guys would want. So we went out and we looked through our city contractor and we tried to find what was existing in that area and what we thought would look good. And I just really like the fact that, and I appreciate your point about it kind of looks like a parking lot. Maybe the Photoshop isn't as great as work as it could be. It's not that large of an area right there. We're not experts in Photoshop. But I think it really gives it more functionality if we don't have a fence there, just because a truck could pull up right next to that front door and offload any equipment that he's got. Because right now there's a sidewalk there and we're not supposed to park on the sidewalk, so he could actually pull up there in an emergency to get access to the building. Again, it's our mission to make sure that we have access to this building at all times. When there's events going on, there's people parking all along the street in there, and sometimes it's rather difficult. And I think a fence there would limit some of our accessibility. So that's
Patricia, my last question, how do you get access currently with this fence?
So there's a double gate right kind of under the white sign in the picture. No, right on the building. See the white sign on the building? And then come right out in front of it, there's a double door. And I think this fence is roughly 20 years old, maybe. And to be honest, I don't know how the preservation ever approved something like this down in that district. So it's not ideal. It covers unsightly rodents and dumpsters and all sorts of trash that people throw in. And we were just thinking if we got rid of that fence, that area would be a lot more cleaned up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and the last member we're going to ask for questions would be Victor Sanchez. Victor, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, thank you, Patricia, for your presentation. I just have one question. Is that, does the generator have to be on this side of the building, or is there a reason why it is on this side of the building?
Yeah, great. That's a great question. Yeah, the current generator is right in that corner, right where you see the generator now. And that is where our electrical, all our transfer switches and everything is. It's right there. And that's really the ideal location for it. What were you thinking? I don't know where else one would put it. I'd hate to
Yeah, I
put
was
it.
just curious if it could be on the back side of the building where there's already some other mechanical equipment. I just wasn't sure if the reasoning behind this location, but
Yeah,
I think you explained it.
It's just convenient to all the electrical switch gear that's right inside the facility there. And I don't want it to be in the way of any in the driveway on the backside where the storage tank for the fuel is.
Okay, thank you.
So, you're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Victor. If board members have no further questions, we'll go back to staff and they can read public testimony statements if we have any. Kate, do we have any public testimony?
We don't. So the deadline to sign up to speak for this hearing was today at noon, and no person signed up to speak on this case. And there was also no written comment as of the deadline Tuesday, March 1st, 2022 at 5 p.m.
Great. Thanks, Kate. So with that, we will technically close the public portion and members will deliberate. Kate, did you want to read a deliberation statement?
Sure. So this begins the deliberations by the Rochester Preservation Board for case file number A-020-21-22 on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. During deliberations, board members review cases and take action by voting. There's no participation by applicants or the public.
Thank you, Kate. So we'll start with Ed. Ed, what are your thoughts on this case?
Well, I agree with Patricia. I think they know the property better than we do. If they want it without a fence, I think we should go without the fence.
Okay, do you aesthetically like it better without the fence?
Well, that's a pretty bad fence that there's now.
Well, yeah, the one the other two that they're proposing.
It's hard for me to picture that.
Okay. All right. I guess I would be next. I personally would like to see a fence. I think it would look much cleaner, a little bit more put together. And I personally like the higher one, but I would also like to hear what my colleagues have to say. Gerald?
So I have a slight preference for a fence too. I think it will look much cleaner. I think it will tie together the two buildings on either side. And I think it will define that area as a single sidewalk rather than a sidewalk interrupted by what looks like a parking lot. I would favor a 5-foot fence. I think that's fine. And I would also have no objection to a black aluminum fence with a double gate that was wide enough to let a truck through.
Great point.
And I also, to be clear, I would have no objection if staff were okay with it, with staff giving desk approval to the final design of the fence, as long as it's black and aluminum and roughly similar to the design that we saw this evening.
All right, great points. Thanks, Gerald. And Victor, what are your thoughts, please?
I definitely like it with no fence better than the fence that's there now, but I also do have a preference to there being a fence. And I think the points that Gerald made were very, very good. And I definitely agree with that.
Let's just ask staff how they would feel if we left left that up to them. Would you be comfortable with that?
I think if it is the style of what was proposed, either the 5 foot or the 8 foot, and then with the materials, I think that we should be able to process it like any other fence permit, but take into account the conditions posed by the board.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just be specific as you all want to be in terms of what you're looking for, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you. Let me just go back to Ed. Ed, how would you feel if a motion were made to go with the 5 foot fence and basically what we said?
I guess I would go along. I don't want to kill this proposal.
Okay, all right. Would someone like to give me a motion, Gerald?
And I would, in the motion, if you could kind of address like where it would be located, like if you want it located where the fence options are spelled out here, like say that, or, you know, just to give the staff some direction.
Okay, Tom, let me give it a try and then let me know if there's anything I should change or that I'm not doing correctly. Excuse me. So I'm going to make a motion regarding case number 1A-020-21-22 at 232 Mill Street. I move that we accept the application to replace an existing interior generator with an exterior diesel generator, and that we require that the applicant place a fence and gate on the property to enclose the area, placed similar to the current placement of the fence, that the new fence be a black metal fence, similar in design to the fence design in the application, that it be 5 foot tall, that it have 1 or 2 gates wide enough to accommodate a truck. And I think that's all.
And that we would leave it up to staff to make the final decision?
Yes, and that we would leave it up to staff to approve the final fence design.
Do I have anyone second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Gerald Gamm and properly seconded by Ed Kane. I'll call each board member for their vote for the motion. We'll start with Ed Kane. Do you vote yay or nay for this motion, Ed?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay. I'm next. I would vote yay for the motion. Gerald Gamm?
Yay.
Gerald Gamm votes yay for the motion. And Victor Sanchez?
Yay.
Victor Sanchez votes yay. So that would be unanimous 4 votes. Thank you very much for the presentation. We greatly appreciate it. And Kate, whenever you're ready, if you would please call the next case.
Great. So now we have case 2. This is file number A-038-21-22. This is a certificate of appropriateness case for the Bank of America at 669-675 Park Avenue, which resides in the C2 Community Center District and the East Avenue Preservation District. The purpose of their request is to legalize the installation of 3 AC units, as well as install 2 screening fences on the north side of the Bank of America building. All present commissioners have visited the site, and we have both Ian and Ashley, I think, will be moved over momentarily from Project Expeditors Consulting, here to present the case.
Thank you, Kate. And we also want to get on record that all board members have visited the site. All right. And let's see. It looks like we have Ashley McMaster with us. Ashley, can you hear me?
Hi, Chris. It's Ian Heaney here with Project Expeditors. I'll be handling this case.
Okay, very good. Ian, I just need to swear you in. Ian Heaney, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. And we're ready for your presentation.
Perfect. Kate, am I able to share our site plan or?
Well, Kate will display the application on the screen for us, and we can go to any page you prefer.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd like to just continue down to the overall site plan. Perfect. So first of all, good afternoon, board. Thanks very much for taking the time to hear us tonight. I'm representing Bank of America on this project. We're here to propose the screening in 2 locations on site. One screen on Park Avenue and another fence screening on the corner of Berkeley Street and Park Avenue. The red lines as seen on the screen show the proposed location of the fence to be installed. The fence on the Park Avenue site is a 6-foot high fence to screen the existing HVAC units. And the fence on the corner of Berkeley Street and Park Avenue is a proposed 3-foot high fence. The fence that we're proposing is a board-on-board fence as seen in the snippet imposed into the site plan. Reason for our choice is the board-on-board fence has no gaps, and it's providing a entire shield of the HVAC units. The fence can be painted or stained to the board's preference, and I'd like to answer any questions you may have regarding the proposal.
All right, thank you for the presentation, Ian. I'll go alphabetically. We'll start on the other end alphabetically for questions, and that will be Victor Sanchez. Victor, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, the one question I have is the placement of the AC units. Is there a reason they were placed in this location as opposed to the rear of the building?
Yes, there is. So due to the existing site constraints, the constraints are such that the entire rear of the property is occupied by parking spaces. You can see the location of the spaces on this overall site plan. To the west of the building, the spaces are quite tight to the building, and also to the east, spaces about the property very, very close. So there was no feasible other options for locations for the units other than the places they exist.
Okay. It felt to me that there was significant space in the back when I visited the site, but I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
Yeah, to further to that, I mean, there's no feasible space without losing our parking spaces, which are already quite tight. If the units were placed to the rear of the building, we would have to provide bollards, and there's not enough room.
Okay. Any other questions, Victor? Or would you like to expound on that at all?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Gerald Gam, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Ian, thank you for being here. I have 2 questions. Number 1 question, these units are relatively new. Where were the old units?
Yeah, there's 3 units on site. The units along Park Ave, the one closest to the corner of the building, that is an existing unit. The unit directly in front of that, closer to the street, is a new unit that was installed in 2020. And the unit on the corner of Berkeley Street and Park Ave was an existing unit prior to our tenant improvement project in the year 2020. So not all 3 units as seen on the plan are new.
So you're saying 2 of the 3 units on the plan have been there for years?
Correct.
Okay, so you're saying the 2 closest to the building have been there for years. The stack unit near the bay window has been there for years?
The stack unit near the bay window is the unit that was installed in 2020.
Okay.
The unit in behind it has been there.
So there's a unit behind the very tall unit that we're looking at here.
Correct. And there's an existing site photo further down that will display that unit.
Got it. So why was the decision made when you had two relatively small units that were hidden by hedges to install that very tall new unit?
The unit was spec'd during a tenant improvement project where we expanded an area that was previously an ATM vestibule and turned it into some office space, which required some heating and ventilation systems. And the unit was spec'd by our design team and approved with a building permit.
Okay. My only other question, is there any place on the roof that you could, maybe on the rear roof, that you could put these units?
I don't believe there is a place on the rear. If you look along Berkeley Street at the roof itself, it's quite exposed to the street view. And I don't believe moving the units to the roof is going to achieve anything. I believe screening the units is the best option.
Okay, and I know I said I only had two questions. I have a third, and I apologize to everybody. What would happen if you got rid of that double high unit and you just went back to those two older units that were previously screened by hedges?
Yeah, I would have to take that question back to the design professional, but the two existing units serve separate areas of the building, and the new double stack unit serves a different area of the building. So all three units are still in operation.
Okay, that's all very helpful, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I would be next. Ian, thank you again for being here. Would you say that if you put these units in the back of the building, that you would take up one parking spot with them? I would think, just looking at them.
You're discussing the two units?
All three units, actually.
That's a question.
Because we're on a corner lot by back, like, can you say like which directional side?
Say that again, Tom. I'm sorry. I didn't.
So
I think we're talking about the south side of the building.
Yeah, if you could just say south or east side, that would, I think, it'd help follow better.
Gotcha. So Ian, on the southern part of the building, yes, where the parking lot is, if you were to remove all three of those AC units from the front facade, the very important part of the building from our standpoint, and put them on the south side, how many parking spots do you think it would take up? I mean, just looking at it on the map, I don't think it would be more than one at the very most.
Yeah, well, we did brainstorm some ideas in anticipation for some comments and feedback that we would receive, and our civil team stated that we're not in a position to lose parking spaces.
And if I could just ask why?
Yes, so I will have to reconfirm with the design team, but I'm not quite sure on the number of parking spaces required for our use. But I know we only have, I believe, 10 spaces, including an ADA space.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then I would go back to Gerald's question / comment. It's obviously a gabled roof. If you put a platform on the back gable, back again being south, probably southeast corner, if it had to go anywhere and not behind the building, could it be, yeah, that's good, Kate, where you were, or Diamond. Yes, in that section of the roof.
Sorry, Chris, what was the question there?
If
I
you
understand
were
the
to take,
location.
Yeah, if you were to take those three units that are currently on the ground in the front of the building, the front facade of the building, put them on the back gable. I'm sure you have to put some kind of platform up on the back gable. What was your concern with putting it on the southern end again? You said you could see it from Berkeley Street?
Yeah, as you drive along Berkeley Street, you have full view of the pitched roof.
Yeah, but
of
if
the
you drive along Park Avenue, you have full view of those three extremely ugly units right in the front, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Thanks for making it. Again, the feasibility of moving 3 units and reconfiguring a roof space, you know, and proposing a platform is it's extremely big ask, and yeah, I'm not sure if it's achievable.
Okay, well, with all due respect, it's a big ask of us just to put in new units and then ask for us to give you a C of A for it. So,
Right, yeah, to the extent that you're claiming that there's expenses arising out of relocating things that you placed without approval, that's again another one of those things you have to apply for economic hardship, that the board can't accept a less appropriate option because of costs.
Yeah, totally understand. I do want to make it clear to the board that we didn't install these AC units in bad faith. We did have a building permit where the plan set showed these new AC unit installations, and we were under the impression that we had all approvals in order to do so.
Okay.
That has no bearing, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
No one is saying you did it in bad faith, but
I don't think I have any further questions. Ed Kane, do you have any questions for Ian?
Yeah, I do. Maybe this is sort of a big leap, but if we were to leave them and go with the fencing option, you mentioned that the painting or staining was what the board wanted. Do you know what the bank wants in terms of paint or stain for the color?
We're in a position to work with what the board would recommend.
So you're open as to color. You don't have a preference.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if board members have no further questions, we'll go back to Kate. And Kate, I believe there was some public testimony statements that you may want to put into our testimony.
Sure. So the deadline to sign up to speak for this hearing was today, Wednesday, March 2nd at noon. We did not have anyone sign up to speak on this case. However, we did receive 2 public comments. They were both received by city staff by the written comment deadline, which was Tuesday, March 1st, 2022 at 5 p.m. And these comments are pages 19 and 20 of the staff report.
Okay. Ian, I'm assuming you were able to read those?
Yep, we received them.
Okay, did you want to say anything, any rebuttal? You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you have the right to.
No, at this time, we acknowledge them and no further comment.
All right, great. Thank you. Then I guess with that, we'll close the public portion. And Kate, if you wanted to read the deliberation statement, please.
Sure. So this begins the deliberations by the Rochester Preservation Board for case number 2, file number A-038-21-22 on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. During deliberations, board members review cases and take action by voting. There is no participation by applicants or the public.
Great. Thank you, Kate. We'll start with Victor. Victor, what are your thoughts on this case, please?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the units where they're located. And I understand that they were probably under the assumption that everything was fine with their approvals, but yeah, I'm really not a fan of them and would propose to have them relocated somewhere else or come up with other options.
Any other options that you would consider?
I'm not sure right now, aside from, it would just be a matter of where else they could relocate them to.
So you're kind of thinking of basically just rejecting it the way it is, the application is what you're saying, and having them come back for something?
Yes.
Okay. Just trying to get it clear, that's all.
No, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Victor. Gerald, what are your thoughts, please?
So I agree with Victor. This is the East Avenue Preservation District. This is one of the most important commercial corners in the East Avenue District. And the current proposal is something that bears no relationship at all to the way that we would expect businesses and homes to be treated visually. I think in particular that new double-decker air conditioning unit is truly unsightly, and building a tall wooden fence is only going to introduce another unsightly object to the area. So what would I do? Assuming this is permitted by the staff, I would hold the application rather than reject it. I would make it clear to the applicant that what in my judgment, I would make it clear to the applicant that the current proposal is unacceptable and the current placement of those units is unacceptable. Hold it and invite them to come forward with alternatives. My number one preferred alternative would be to see if they could relocate all 3 air conditioning units to the rear of the building. I don't even know that they need 3 units. This is not a big building. Homes that are much, much larger than this building can be air conditioned with 1, maybe 2 units. So I would ask them to revisit the entire air conditioning situation of the building, see number one, if they can relocate the units that they need to the rear, to the south side of the building. 2, if they can't, to then see what's possible in terms of the roof of the building. But I do worry that that's also unsightly. And 3, if they come forward and say there is just no way we can do it, that the city code mandates that we have a certain number of parking spots and there's otherwise no room, and there's no way to do it on the roof, or it's going to be truly ugly on the roof, I would consider a proposal for 2 small units where the old units are currently located, accompanied by a proposal of yews and other vegetation to shield those units. So that would be my last choice, would be 2 units where the old units are, but low to the ground, as visually unobtrusive as possible, and only if they can demonstrate that it's legally impossible to take a parking spot at the rear, and that putting it on the roof would be even uglier.
Okay, thank you, Gerald. All great points. I would have to agree with you 150%. So I'll save a little bit of time instead of repeating what you said, but I completely agree with what you said, and they're all excellent points. Mr. Kane?
Well, had the bank come to us with the proposal to do this in the first place, it's pretty clear the Preservation Board never would have approved it. So I'm all for holding it and seeing what kind of alternative proposal they can come back with.
Great. Okay, thank you. Staff, Kate, Tom Worth, are you okay with it? What do you think about us holding it and having them come back?
Yeah, I mean, legally, the normal position would be they would, if you denied this application, they would have to come back and file a new application, and they wouldn't have a problem filing a new application. There's a 2-year ban, reconsider, because presumably they'd be coming back with an application think could get approved, and it would be different enough from the current one so that they could reapply right away. So what you're proposing would just have the effect of waiving the application fee for them to reapply.
Great, thank you. That helps us a lot. Would anyone like to give me a motion based on that? It seems as if we're all kind of on the same page. Victor, how about it? You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, I can give it a shot. So just to clarify, we're saying that rejecting it would essentially serve the same purpose, and we do not have to hold.
Go ahead, Tom.
I mean, you prepare a resolution. You could just say a resolution denying the application and do that. Or you could include in the resolution some guidance on what you would expect them to come back with, or to the issues to address when they come back.
So basically, we're going to say we would hold the resolution of them coming back using some of the suggestions that we gave them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it would be better to reject this application. Just because sometimes people get confused.
That's easy. We can do that. It's much easier that way.
But that, since you're giving them allowance that you're rejecting this application, but they can submit it as a revised application, you could also give them some guidance on what you want.
Well, our guidance is already on the record. So if we just reject it, we'll go from there.
I just want to address the board is okay with them coming back within the 2-year time frame that is typically not. Is that what you're referring to, Tom?
Yeah. I mean, maybe that. So the 2-year deadline, you have to have the council or the board, when they come back, say this is substantially different application.
Well, it would be. Gerald, you have your hand up.
I do. Tom, quick question. In cases like this in the past, we've usually held the case. Is there any reason not to hold it?
There's some issues about, in past the boards have said, we're not in we don't have a duty, or it's not really appropriate for us to prepare your application for your design it enough so you can get approved. We're kind of cutting them slack if you deny it, and then but with allowance to come back the revised application under the same application number. I guess it all depends on how, whether there's something procedurally beneficial to just not rejecting it. And as the thought just crossed my mind that one of them would be is if you put like a condition on it that they do so within a certain amount of time. So that might be something that would be beneficial to the interests of your interests and the interests of the city. I'm just not sure.
Well, okay. We've done it in the past, Gerald, you're right. If we were to hold this case and have them come back and take some of our suggestions, and right, there's no harm, there's no foul. We're kind of working with them because we don't want to be that difficult, and we do want to work with the applicant. I kind of feel if we did a hold, they have our testimony, they know what we're looking for, have them come back, we hold it. How do you guys feel about it? Board members?
I'm fine with a hold.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with
I'd
that.
prefer a hold.
Okay. Victor, why don't you give me a motion, give it a shot at that, and we'll kind of we'll all jump in and help.
Okay, sounds good. So for case 2, file number A-038-21-22, make a motion to hold the application and have the applicant return with proposals of relocating the units.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay. A motion's been made by Victor Sanchez and properly seconded by Ed Kane. I'll call each member out for their vote. And we will start with Victor Sanchez. Victor, do you vote yay or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Victor Sanchez votes yay. Gerald Gam, do you vote yay or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Gerald Gam votes yay. I'm next. Christopher Coretta, I vote yay for the motion. Ed Kane, do you vote yay or nay for the motion?
yay.
Ed Kane votes yay. That's a unanimous 4 votes that we need to pass. Very good. Thank you very much, Ian. Appreciate the presentation. Kate, whenever you're ready, we're ready for you to call on the 3rd case.
Great. So next we have case 3, file number A-039-21-22. This is a certificate of appropriateness case for the subject property 691-695 Park Avenue, which resides in the C2 Community Center District, as well as the East Avenue Preservation District. The purpose of their request is to install a single-faced aluminum composite panel sign for Nino's. All present board members have visited the site, and we have Jim Colombo from Skylight Signs here to present the case. And it looks like he is moved over.
Okay, great. Jim Colombo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, Jim, I just need to swear you in. Jim Colombo, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great. Thank you, and thanks for being here, and we are ready for your presentation.
Yes, I'm just simply asking for the Preservation Board permission on the simple Nino's panel sign to get his his second store opened up and get it running here on Park at 695 Park Ave. Non-illuminated panel, which will be illuminated externally by gooseneck lighting that's there. And just his logos, all he wanted in the middle of that board. So that's basically what he wanted, to be digitally printed vinyl on an aluminum panel. So that's as simple as it gets. And any questions, I'm willing to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Colombo. We appreciate simple sometimes. Let me tell you, short and sweet is nice.
You got it.
Thank you for that. Yes, we will open this up for questions for board members. We'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do have a question. What sort of signage are you considering for the windows?
He hasn't approached me with anything for the windows, let alone hours for the door. He hasn't approached me on that yet. He just wants his name up there and get things going. And maybe he's feeling out hours. If he does, I have no clue. He hasn't approached me on that yet.
So right now, there's no signage in the windows, or you don't know what signage is in the windows?
I do signage in windows, yes, for sure, but he has not asked me for that. And those are paper signs in the window that exist that say coming soon. Once he's open, obviously those will be let down, but I don't know what he has in the future for windows or hours. He hasn't approached me on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Ed. So I would be next. And just to clarify, so the only thing you're coming for is that Nino's sign in the center at the top. Okay, great.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions. Gerald Gam?
I have no questions.
Thank you very much. And Victor Sanchez, any questions?
I also have no questions.
All right, well, that was easy.
Well, let me ask you this. May I intervene? What if he
Sure.
asked me for hours? You know, Jim, can you put the hours on the door? Will I have to come back for that, or should I just put the hours on the door? I have no clue if he's going to, but if he does, are the hours allowed on the door?
Tom Worth, I think you may be the best person to answer this question if you don't mind.
Oh, I want to punt to Kate or
Or Matt?
or
I think,
Matt.
Tom, most Park Avenue restaurants do have small hours on the doors, if I can recall, down the road and everything, Giants and what have you, but I just don't know if it needs permission. And
Yeah.
again, he has not approached me, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
typically,
Kate and Matt can kind of let me know if I'm
yeah,
remembering
no,
this right
that's
or
fine.
not, but-
So if it's gonna be like a window sign, which is like the emblem or the words of the business that draws attention to the business, making it a business sign, then yeah, it would need pres board approval. But if they're just putting like the hours or something on the door and it's small and not the whole door, that's not an issue. You wouldn't have to come back.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
And Matt, am I remembering this right, that also if they have, if they only take up less than a quarter of the window space, they might not have to apply?
Yeah, there's a maximum transparency thing, but it typically if it's just hours or like a phone number for a business, it doesn't get anywhere close to that.
But that if it is business signage, then like in the windows, then it would count also toward their square footage limitation, their overall square footage sign limitation, right? That's based on frontage.
Yeah, there's a transparency. I think it's up to, I'd have to check the code, but I think it's up to 25%.
No, but also, you know, like the business sign, isn't there like a certain number of square feet that's based on some multiple?
I'm sorry, yes, based on the linear frontage of the, yes, correct. The total allotment.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that helped you, Mr. Colombo.
Yes.
If board members have no further questions, I'm going to kick it over to Kate for any public testimony statements or comments.
Great. So again, the deadline to sign up to speak at this virtual hearing was today, March 2nd, 2022 at 12 p.m. And no persons signed up to speak on this case.
Very good. So technically, we will close the public portion on this case and members will deliberate. And we're going to go back to you, Kate, for the deliberation statement again.
Great. So this begins the deliberations by the Rochester Preservation Board for case number 3, file number A-039-21-22 on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. During deliberations, the board member will review the case and take action by voting. There is no participation by applicants or the public.
Thank you, Kate. We'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, your thoughts on this case?
I'm fine with the sign.
Thank you. I would be next. I would agree with Ed. Simple case. I would support it the way it sits fully. Victor? I'm sorry, I have to do it alphabetical order. I'm going like, you know, the Brady Bunch. Gerald Gam.
I agree with you completely. I love the sign. I love the presentation. It's entirely appropriate for Park Avenue.
Great, thank you. And Victor Sanchez.
Yep, I'll agree with everything that was said. No need to carry it forward.
Great. Ed, would you like to give me a motion on this, please?
Sure. For case A-039-2122, 691 to 695 Park Avenue, to install a single-faced aluminum composite panel sign for Nino's.
I'll second it. Motion has been made by Ed Kane and properly seconded by Chris Coretta. I will call each member and ask them for their vote in alphabetical order. We'll start with Ed Kane. Do you vote yay or nay for this motion, Ed?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay for this motion. Next would be me, Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for the motion. Gerald Gam?
Yay.
Gerald Gam votes yay for the motion. And Victor Sanchez?
Yay.
Victor Sanchez votes nay. That's a unanimous 4 votes, which passes it. Thank you, Mr. Colombo. We appreciate it. I guess we're going to see you at the next case. Kate, would you mind calling the next case when you're ready?
Sure thing. So Our final case for the evening is case number 4, file number A-040-21-22. This is a certificate of appropriateness case for the subject property 911-913 University Avenue, which resides in Plan Development District number 14, George Eastman House, as well as the East Avenue Preservation District. The purpose of their request is to install a projecting sign on the northeast corner of the building for 933 VU. All present board members have visited the site. And joining us again, we have Jim Colombo from Skylight Signs here to present the case.
Thanks, Kate. Jim, I'll swear you in again, even though I swore you in on the last one, just to be safe. Jim Colombo, do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Jim, are you with me? You may be on mute. Oh. Jim? Okay, I think Jim's off mute now. Jim, did you hear me?
Hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
How about now? Yes,
Perfect.
yes, I
Perfect.
do.
You do. All right, great. And we're ready for your
Yes.
next presentation. Thank you.
Bear with me. This is a little bit more entailed than Nino's at 933 University, and please interrupt me or somehow flag me if you can't hear me. But this is going to be a projecting blade sign, internally illuminated with LEDs. All aluminum sign, anchored to the wall, 933 the U, where the kids will be staying, and it looks like it would fit in nicely in the neighborhood. It's not really, a totally. All you see at night would be the 933 the U. You wouldn't see the whole cabinet. So the opaque background would help to kind of dim it if you're looking at that. I really don't have anything else to add to that other than get some signage up there so people can see coming from, the east and west on University. Again, internally illuminated, backed with Plex, all aluminum cabinet, and LEDs internally illuminates it. I don't have anything else to add. I'd like to entertain questions if you have them, please.
We will. Thank you, Mr. Colombo. We're going to start with Victor Sanchez. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, Gerald Gam, any questions?
So, yes, I do have a question. My question, I have no objection at all to the placement of the sign, to the construction of the sign. My question, and I think it may be the first time that I'm the one asking this question, is about the font. And I saw the design of the sign. I had concerns about the font. My concern about the font is two things. It's a font with serifs, so it has these little delicate lines, and the width of the letters differs depending on where on the letter you are. So if you look, for example, at the U, it's very obvious where the left side is much thicker than the right side. And I thought when I saw this, the is going to be hard to see from the street. The differential thicknesses of the letters and the serifs could be distracting. And then I visited the site and looked at the 933 over the entrance and looked at the signs saying 933 the U at the parking spots. And there you're using a very different font, and it's actually the same font, the 933 over the entrance and the 933 the U over the parking spots. So, and I have photographs of that. I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to share them. I'd be glad to share the photos I have of the alternative font. My question is, was a conscious decision made to change the font? If so, why? And if so, are all these other signs also being changed?
Well, again, I'm representing Morgan Management, and I can't answer that question fully. However, I can definitely go to the customer. If that is their artwork and that they're adamant to put that on there, that's what I will come back to you and say. Otherwise, it can be simple block font throughout the sign to match what's there on the vinyl or on the parking signs. I could find out for you. I have no problem doing that. And yeah, you're probably right on. The THE is kind of small. It'll be tough to see that. However, I know they're adamant to put that logo in there, but I do not know if that is their artwork that they're estimate to put on it. So let me follow up on that for you, and I can definitely get back to you on that.
Yeah, so Jim, I appreciate that. To be clear, if this were the same font as is being used on the parking signs, I'd have no objection at all. I think that's a good, clean font. It's a strong font, and it gives a consistent branding to the site. So that is my only concern, and I appreciate you being so transparent. And I also love your short presentations. So thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, that can happen. As long as they're, I would go back to them. In fact, I'll be by there tomorrow anyway. I'll stop by and take a look and compare too.
So, question for the staff: would it be appropriate for me to share my photograph of the other sign?
No.
Okay.
We need to go on the record that's in front of us, and you can describe, and you have, that's fine from your observation, but yeah, we're not.
Okay, so to be clear, I'm referring to the exact font and design that's used on the parking signs, and the 933 from that font also appears on the door on University.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Gerald?
Nope, that was all.
Okay. I'm next. I have no questions. Ed Kane, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
All right. If board members have no further questions, we'll go back to Kate. Show any public testimony statements or all comments to be read in the record.
So no person signed up to speak on this case by the deadline, which was today at noon.
All right, then we will technically close the public portion and members will deliberate. Kate, back to you for deliberation statement.
Great, so this begins the deliberations for the Rochester Preservation Board for case number 4, file number A-040-21-22 on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. During deliberations, board members will review the case and take action by voting. There's no participation by applicants or the public.
All right, thanks, Kate. Victor, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this case, please?
Yeah, I have no objection to the overall look of the sign, but I do appreciate the point that Gerald made about the font. And visiting the site, I did see that the font that you're talking about, Gerald, and I do agree that that is a much cleaner looking font, and it would make sense for all the fonts to match on that site.
Okay, thanks, Victor. Gerald, your thoughts?
So Victor captured my thoughts real well. I have no objection at all to the substance of what's being proposed, but I think the font and design is wrong. And so I guess I would hold the case and ask them to come back with a signage program for the site where the blade sign matches the parking sign and the number above the door. And I would strongly, strongly urge them to come up with a strong font similar to the one they already have.
But you're okay with the blade sign itself and the attachments and all of that?
Yeah, I have no concerns about any of that. And I feel funny asking them to come back for a font, but I think the font chosen is not just a weak font for what's it called, wayfaring or whatever it's called, but it's also completely different from the fonts that are already being used there.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm next. I really like the sign. I think it's great. It's great. It's going to be great in the neighborhood. Such a beautiful building. I think it's going to set it off well. I don't have an issue with the font as it is, but I'm happy to go along with my colleagues, and I totally understand what they're saying. So I'm happy to go along with it that way. Ed?
I kind of agree with you, Chris. I'm fine with it, but if we want a matching font, I'm fine with that too.
Okay. Someone want to give me a motion on that?
I'll give you a motion. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Case number 4, file number A-040-21-22. The application is to install a projecting sign on the northeast corner of the building for 933 the U, that we hold the application and ask the applicant to return with a sign that has a clearer, stronger font and a program where the fonts match in the different signage locations on the site.
I'll second.
A motion has been made by Gerald Gam and properly seconded by Victor Sanchez. I'll call out each board member and ask how they would vote on it. Victor Sanchez, do you vote yea or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Victor Sanchez votes yea on the motion. Gerald Gam.
Yay.
Gerald Gam votes yea on the motion. I'm next. Chris Coretta, I vote yea on the motion. And Ed Kane.
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yea on the motion. It would be unanimous 4 votes, which would pass it. That would be it. Kate, we're going to go to you.
Great. So this concludes the Rochester Preservation Board's hearing on March 2nd, 2022. We thank all applicants and citizens for their participation, and our next scheduled hearing will be held on Wednesday, April 6th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Take care.
Good night.